In public, he mocked and humiliated his pregnant wife for being overweight, all in front of his fit mistress. But at the press conference the next day, something happened that made his hands tremble in front of the cameras. Wesley Tate stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, surveying downtown Miami like an emperor overlooking his domain. At 38, he had built Tate Luxury Properties from nothing into the most exclusive real estate development company in South Florida. The city's skyline was increasingly defined by his vision: sleek, modern buildings where only the elite could afford to live. "Mr. Tate, your 2 o'clock is here," his assistant announced through the intercom. Wesley straightened his custom brioni tie and ran a hand over his meticulously styled hair. The reflection in the glass showed exactly what he wanted the world to see: success personified. No trace remained of the overweight boy who had once been mocked in middle school hallways. He had erased that version of himself completely. "Send them in, Margot," he replied, turning to face the room. The minimalist office, all clean lines and neutral tones, was designed to impress, just like everything else in his life. The meeting went as expected, another investor eager to get a piece of his latest waterfront development. Wesley's pitch was flawless, each word calculated for maximum impact. By the time the investor left, another $5 million was secured for the Pinnacle, Wesley's most ambitious luxury project to date. As the office emptied for the day, Wesley's phone chimed with a text from Eliana. "Don't forget dinner with the Pattersons at 7. Wear the blue tie I left out." He frowned at the screen. The Pattersons, boring people with old money who talked endlessly about their European vacations, and Eliana would be there, 7 months pregnant and increasingly irritable about everything. The pregnancy had been his idea, an heir for the Tate empire, but he hadn't anticipated how dramatically it would change her body. The woman he'd married 5 years ago, slender, elegant Eliana Monroe, former journalist with connections throughout Miami's elite circles, had transformed into someone he barely recognized. "I'll be there," he texted back curtly, already dreading an evening of making small talk while watching his wife struggle to find a comfortable position in her chair. Eliana Monroe Tate examined her reflection in the full-length mirror of their Coral Gables mansion's walk-in closet. The navy blue maternity dress, designer of course, did little to disguise her swollen ankles and the way her face had rounded with water retention. She smoothed a hand over her 7-month baby bump, trying to feel the joy that pregnancy books insisted should accompany this magical time. Instead, she felt anxious. Wesley had been distant lately, disappearing into late-night meetings and finding reasons to sleep in the guest bedroom. When he did look at her, she caught flashes of something that looked disturbingly like disgust. She tried to remind herself that this was temporary, that her body was creating their child, something they had both wanted. The doorbell rang, and Eliana carefully navigated the curved staircase to greet their dinner guests. She fixed her professional smile in place, the one she'd perfected during her years as a respected journalist for the Miami Herald before giving it up to support Wesley's growing business. Sometimes she missed the newsroom's energy, the satisfaction of publishing an exposé that made a difference, but she had traded that for what she thought would be a partnership with Wesley, using her social conscience to guide his business toward more ethical practices. "Helen, Richard, welcome," she greeted the Pattersons, embracing Helen carefully to accommodate her belly. Wesley should be home any minute. But as the evening wore on, Wesley's absence became increasingly conspicuous. Her texts went unanswered. She kept the conversation flowing, refilled wine glasses, and ignored the pitying looks Helen shot her way. When Wesley finally arrived, nearly 2 hours late, he entered with a burst of charismatic energy that immediately recaptured the room. "Richard, Helen, I'm so sorry. Emergency at the Pinnacle site. You know how it is with these contractors," he explained, slipping seamlessly into host mode. "I see my beautiful wife has been taking care of you." His hand rested briefly on Eliana's shoulder, but she felt the stiffness in his touch. He smelled of unfamiliar cologne and mint, as if he'd recently brushed his teeth or used mouthwash. Later, after the Pattersons had left, Eliana watched Wesley loosen his tie, not the blue one she'd left out, and pour himself a scotch. "You could have called," she said quietly. "I was busy saving our investment," he replied without looking at her. "The Pinnacle Fitness Center design needed adjustments. I had to meet with the new consultant." "Until 9 p.m.? Wesley sighed, the sound laced with impatience. "This is why I didn't call, Eliana. the emotional overreaction. Is this the hormones talking? Because I really don't have the energy for it tonight. She flinched as if he'd slapped her. I had to entertain our guests alone, their potential investors, who I closed with one drink and 20 minutes of actual conversation. He interrupted. Something you used to be able to do before you started taking everything so personally. Eliana's throat tightened. This new cruelty had been emerging gradually, but it still shocked her each time. I'm going to bed, she said, not trusting herself to say more without breaking down. As she climbed the stairs, she heard Wesley's phone chime with a text. His soft laugh in response felt like another wound. The Pinnacle's fitness center was state-of-the-art, designed to be a selling point for the luxury condominiums that would start at $5 million. Wesley surveyed the space, currently in its final construction phase, with the critical eye that had made him successful. The ceilings needed to be higher, the lighting more flattering, the equipment more exclusive. What do you think, Mr. Tate? Asked the project manager anxiously. Before Wesley could answer, a woman's voice echoed through the unfinished space. I think it needs more mirrors. People want to see themselves transform. Wesley turned to find a striking blonde in activewear walking toward them, confidence in every step. Her body was a testament to discipline. Sculpted arms, defined abs visible beneath a cropped top, legs that seemed to never end. Bryn Caldwell, she introduced herself, extending a perfectly manicured hand. Your marketing team hired me as the fitness consultant for the launch campaign. Wesley found himself momentarily speechless, a rare occurrence. At 29, Bryn radiated the kind of flawless beauty that came from absolute control over one's body. We need to showcase this facility as more than just a gym, she continued, looking around with a professional eye. It's a lifestyle transformation space. Your wealthy clients aren't buying equipment. They're buying the promise of physical perfection. Something in her words resonated deeply with Wesley. He had built his entire life around erasing his imperfect past and constructing a perfect image. Show me your vision, he said, dismissing the project manager with a nod. For the next hour, Bryn led him through the space, describing her ideas for the marketing campaign that would feature her as the face of the Pinnacle's wellness program. Her Instagram following of over 1 million people would bring invaluable exposure to the property. I understand the mindset of your target clients, she explained as they stood close together, examining the plans. They fear physical decline more than financial ruin. They'll pay anything to feel young and powerful. Wesley felt an electric connection, not just to her obvious beauty, but to her understanding of the insecurities that drove the wealthy, the same insecurities that had driven him. We should discuss this further, he said, his voice slightly lower than before. Perhaps over dinner, to talk about the campaign, of course. Bryn smiled, a calculated curve of perfect lips. Of course. Business only, Mr. Tate. Wesley, he corrected. Wesley, she repeated, holding his gaze a beat longer than necessary. As they exchanged contact information, Wesley was already mentally rearranging his evening plans. Eliana had some charity committee meeting tonight anyway. She wouldn't notice if he came home late. The tension in the Tate household had become a physical presence over the past month. Eliana sat at their kitchen island, picking at her breakfast while Wesley aggressively tapped at his phone, ignored his protein shake, and periodically glanced at his watch. The doctor said my blood pressure is elevated, she said, breaking the silence. He wants me to reduce stress. Wesley responded without looking up. I was thinking maybe we could take a weekend away. The doctor said gentle exercise would be good. Maybe that resort in the Keys we visited last year. This made Wesley look up, a flash of irritation crossing his face. I have the launch event for the Pinnacle coming up, and you're not exactly in resort shape, Eliana. The casual cruelty of the remark hung in the air between them. I meant for my health, she said quietly, for the baby's health. Wesley softened slightly, remembering the air he wanted. Look, why don't you go to that spa you like? Get some treatments. I'll pay for whatever package you want. He stood, straightening his suit jacket. I need to go, big meeting about the fitness center marketing. After he left, Eliana remained at the island, her hand absently rubbing her belly as the baby kicked. The dismissive I'll pay for it response was becoming his solution to everything, as if money could compensate for his growing emotional absence. She reached for her phone and opened Instagram, something she rarely did these days. Wesley's recent behavioral shift had made her suspicious. and her journalistic instincts were awakening after months of suppression. She navigated to Tate Luxury Properties account and scrolled through recent posts. The latest featured the upcoming fitness center with a tag to someone named Bryn Caldwell. Clicking on the profile, Eliana was confronted with image after image of physical perfection. A stunning blonde with an athletic body showcased in various provocative poses, often in luxurious settings. The most recent post caught her attention. Bryn in skin-tight workout gear, standing in what Eliana recognized as the Pinnacle's unfinished fitness center. The caption read, "Excited to partner with Tate Luxury Properties and the visionary Wesley Tate on redefining luxury fitness. Some late nights ahead as we prepare for launch." It was dated 3 weeks ago, right when Wesley had started coming home late. Eliana clicked on the comments and froze. Wesley had commented, "Perfection deserves perfection. The Pinnacle has found its ideal ambassador." She scrolled further back and found more interactions between them. Comments, likes, all professionally appropriate on the surface, but with an undercurrent of something more. Her journalist's ability to detect a story beneath the surface was screaming at her now. A notification popped up on her phone, a text from Wesley, "Going to be late tonight. Meeting with marketing team for final launch preparations. Don't wait up." Eliana switched back to Instagram and saw that Bryn had posted a news story just minutes ago, a close-up of a glass of expensive scotch, Wesley's preferred brand, with a caption that read, "Planning session with the boss." Some meetings are better after hours. The room seemed to tilt slightly as the pieces fell into place. Eliana opened her rideshare app with shaking fingers. If Wesley was having a meeting with his fitness influencer tonight, perhaps she should make an unexpected appearance at the office. The private dining room at Bastion's overlooked Biscayne Bay, the Miami skyline glittering against the night sky. Wesley watched as Bryn sipped her sparkling water, her lips leaving a perfect imprint on the glass. This was their 4th marketing meeting in 2 weeks, each one moving further from business and closer to the inevitable. "The campaign concept is brilliant," Wesley said, sliding the mock-ups across the table. "You're transforming the entire brand image." "That's what I do," Bryn replied with a calculated smile. "Transform things." Her foot brushed against his under the table. Deliberate. "The fitness center will be the crown jewel of the Pinnacle," he continued, maintaining the pretense of professionalism even as desire coursed through him. "We've never had a response like this to pre-launch marketing. People respond to aspiration." Bryn leaned forward, her designer dress revealing just enough to make Wesley's mouth dry. "They want what seems just out of reach." "And what do you want, Bryn?" The question slipped out before he could stop it. She held his gaze, all pretense dropping away. "I want to build something lasting. My own brand of wellness centers. Instagram fame is fleeting. I need a business legacy." She ran a finger around the rim of her glass. "I need the right partner." The implication hung between them, intoxicating in its clarity. This wasn't just attraction, it was ambition meeting ambition. "What about your wife?" Bryn asked, somehow making the question sound like a business consideration rather than a moral one. Wesley's jaw tightened. "Eliana has changed. She used to be my perfect partner. Now she's focused on the pregnancy, charity work, all these domestic concerns. And you need someone focused on empire building," Bryn finished for him. Later that night, in Bryn's minimalist South Beach apartment, as his hand traced the contours of her sculpted body, Wesley felt something he hadn't experienced in months, the thrill of perfection. There were no awkward angles, no complaints of discomfort, no swollen ankles or heartburn interruptions, just 2 disciplined bodies engaging in what felt like a physical manifestation of success. As Bryn slept beside him, Wesley composed a text to Eliana. "Working late on Pinnacle launch, sleeping at the office, early meeting tomorrow." The lie came easily now. Eliana never made it to Wesley's office that night. Her rideshare had barely left their neighborhood when she felt a sharp, stabbing pain that left her gasping. The driver, alarmed by her distress, had diverted to the emergency room instead. Braxton Hicks contractions, exacerbated by stress and elevated blood pressure, the doctor explained hours later. "Not premature labor, thankfully, but a warning sign your body is sending." Now 3 days later, she sat in their sunlit breakfast nook picking at a fruit plate, while Wesley hurriedly prepared to leave for work. He'd been solicitous but distant since her hospital scare, arranging for a housekeeper to check on her during the day, but finding reasons not to be home himself. "I thought we could have dinner together tonight," she suggested. "The new Italian place on Coral Way." My blood pressure was better this morning. Wesley barely looked up from his phone. "Can't tonight. Final marketing approval meeting for the Pinnacle." "With Bryn Caldwell?" The name slipped out before she could stop herself. This caught his attention. His eyes narrowed slightly. "Among others. Why?" "Just curious. I've seen her all over the company's social media." Eliana kept her tone casual. "She seems dedicated." "She understands the vision," Wesley replied, his guard visibly rising. "The fitness center concept needed someone with her profile." "Of course." Eliana nodded, watching him carefully. "Maybe I could come see it sometime. I've barely been involved with the Pinnacle development." Wesley's phone pinged. He glanced at it, a slight smile touching his lips before he quickly suppressed it. "It's just a construction site right now, not safe for your condition." He gathered his things. "I'm late. Remember what the doctor said about resting." After he left, Eliana sat motionless, the sting of dismissal all too familiar now. Her phone rang, pulling her from her thoughts. The name on the screen brought the first genuine smile to her face in days. "Marcus, hi. How's my favorite mum-to-be?" Marcus Delgado's warm voice filled the line. "I heard about your hospital visit. Keeping my godchild-to-be safe?" Eliana's hand rested on her belly. "Trying to. Doctor says I need to reduce stress." "Hard to do when you're married to Hurricane Wesley," Marcus remarked, the affection in his voice tempered with concern. "Listen, I'm in your neighborhood for a meeting. Late breakfast at Rosie's in 20. Relief flooded through her. "I'll be there." Rosie's cafe was a haven of normalcy, the antithesis of the sleek, minimalist spaces Wesley preferred. Marcus was already waiting at their usual corner table, his broad smile and casual linen shirt a welcome contrast to the tension of her home life. At 42, Marcus Delgado had the relaxed confidence of a man comfortable in his own skin. As Tate Luxury Properties minority partner, he handled community relations and ethical compliance, roles Wesley considered necessary burdens rather than core business. What Wesley never fully appreciated was that Marcus's relationships throughout Miami often saved their projects from regulatory roadblocks. "You look exhausted," Marcus said as Eliana sat down. No platitudes about pregnancy glow or pointless reassurances. "That obvious?" She tried to smile. "To someone who's known you since undergrad?" "Yes." He squeezed her hand briefly. "Talk to me, Eli." The nickname from their college days, when they dated briefly before realizing they were better as friends, brought unexpected tears to her eyes. "I think Wesley's having an affair," she said quietly, the words somehow both painful and relieving to finally speak aloud. Marcus's expression remained neutral, too neutral. "What makes you think that?" Eliana detailed the late nights, the emotional distance, the Instagram discoveries, and Wesley's increasing criticism of her changing body. "Have you asked him directly?" Marcus questioned, after listening intently. "You know Wesley. He'd turn it around, make me feel paranoid and hormonal," she sighed. "Besides, I don't have proof." Marcus was silent for a moment. "The annual charity gala is next week. Wesley can't skip his own company's event." "He's already suggested I stay home because of the baby." "Don't." Marcus's tone was unusually firm. "That gala was your idea 3 years ago. The Affordable Housing Initiative is your project. You belong there more than anyone." Eliana felt a flicker of her old determination. "You're right. I've been letting myself be sidelined. The Eliana I know wouldn't stand for that." Marcus smiled. "Speaking of the gala, there's something you should know. The East Side Project funds." His phone buzzed. Looking down, his expression darkened. "It's Wesley, emergency partners meeting." He stood reluctantly. "We'll talk more later. Promise me you'll go to that gala?" Eliana nodded, watching him leave with a growing sense that Marcus knew more than he was saying. The partners meeting was tense from the moment Marcus entered the conference room. Wesley sat at the head of the table, flanked by their legal counsel and, unexpectedly, Bryn Caldwell. "Why is Ms. Caldwell in a private partners meeting?" Marcus asked directly. "Bryn is joining our executive team as Wellness Development Director," Wesley announced. "She'll be overseeing the expansion of our fitness concepts across all properties." "Without board approval? Without even discussing it with me?" Marcus challenged. "I'm the majority shareholder," Wesley replied coldly. This is a courtesy briefing, not a request for permission. Marcus noted the proprietary way Bryn organized Wesley's presentation materials, the subtle familiarity in their body language. Eliana's suspicions were clearly founded. Now, Wesley continued, we need to discuss the allocation of the community development funds before the gala. The next hour revealed Wesley's true purpose. He proposed reallocating 30% of the funds earmarked for the East Side Affordable Housing Project, Eliana's passion project, toward wellness infrastructure in their luxury developments. This is borderline fraudulent, Marcus objected. Those funds were specifically designated for affordable housing in our agreement with the city. It's how we got the tax breaks. The legal department has found a loophole, Wesley countered smoothly. We can classify wellness centers as community health infrastructure if we allow limited public access. Limited meaning what? 1 day a month, with restrictive dress codes and membership applications. Marcus shook his head in disgust. This isn't just unethical, Wesley. It could be illegal. It's business, Wesley snapped. The East Side project is a money pit with no return. This way, everyone wins. Except the families who were promised affordable housing, Marcus pointed out. The project Eliana has been working on for 2 years. Wesley's expression hardened. My wife's pet projects aren't the basis for sound financial decisions. Bryn placed a hand on Wesley's arm, a gesture too intimate for a new executive. The wellness centers will create jobs, she offered. That helps the community too. Minimum wage jobs serving wealthy clients, Marcus retorted. Not exactly equivalent to affordable housing. The meeting ended in a stalemate, with Wesley reminding Marcus that while he valued his input, the final decision was not up for vote. In the hallway afterward, Marcus stopped Bryn. Ms. Caldwell, a word. She turned, her professional smile firmly in place. Mr. Delgado, whatever you think you're getting from Wesley, be careful. He discards people when they no longer fit his image of perfection. Her smile never faltered. I appreciate your concern, but I think you're mistaking business for something more personal. No, Marcus said quietly. I think you're mistaking the personal for a business opportunity. Eliana made that mistake too. Something flickered behind Bryn's confident facade. A calculation being adjusted. Eliana got her perfect life with a successful man. Now she's giving him a child. Some women would be grateful. Some women would expect basic respect and fidelity, Marcus countered. Especially while carrying that child. Bryn's mask slipped momentarily, revealing a colder ambition. Everything evolves, Mr. Delgado. Companies, relationships, priorities. As she walked away, Marcus pulled out his phone, hesitated, then put it back in his pocket. Warning Eliana about the funds would only add to her stress. Better to find another solution before the gala. In her home office, Eliana sat surrounded by pregnancy books and charity gala materials, trying to focus on the event planning rather than the growing emptiness of her marriage. The house phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. Mrs. Tate, this is Gregory from La Maison. I'm calling to confirm Mr. Tate's dinner reservation for 2 tonight at 8. Eliana's heart contracted painfully. There must be a mistake. My husband has a marketing meeting tonight. An awkward pause. I apologize, Mrs. Tate. The reservation was made under his executive account. It specifically requested the private dining alcove and champagne service. I see. Thank you, Gregory. She hung up, her hands trembling slightly. La Maison was where Wesley took clients he wanted to impress. The private alcove was intimate, designed for conversation without interruption, not a place for a group marketing meeting. Her phone pinged with a text from Wesley. Working late again. Don't wait up. Eliana placed both hands on her swollen belly, feeling her child kick as if responding to her distress. The realization crystallized. She was fighting for her dignity now, not just her marriage. Her laptop still open to the charity gala preparations, she noticed an email from the event coordinator. Final dress approval needed for Mrs. Tate's gown. Wesley had told her not to bother attending. In your condition, it will be uncomfortable. No one expects you there, he'd said, as if her pregnancy made her presence an inconvenience rather than her right as co-founder of the charitable initiative. She opened the attachment to see the custom maternity gown she'd ordered months ago, an elegant design in midnight blue that celebrated rather than concealed her pregnant form. The designer had included a note, "Made adjustments for your measurements. This will showcase your beautiful journey." Eliana touched the screen, something resolute forming within her. Wesley might be trying to erase her from his perfect life, replacing her with someone who fit his shallow ideal of perfection, but she would not fade away quietly. She sent her response to the coordinator. "The dress is perfect. Please deliver to my home next week. I will absolutely be attending." Then she opened her old journalistic research database account, dormant since she'd left her career, and typed in a search: Tate Luxury Properties, plus East Side Development, plus fund allocation. If Wesley was betraying her personally, she wondered what other betrayals might be hidden in plain sight. The journalist she had once been would know how to find out. The Ritz-Carlton ballroom transformed into a glittering showcase of Miami's elite for the annual Tate Luxury Properties charity gala. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the space as waiters in crisp white jackets circulated with champagne flutes. A massive ice sculpture of the pinnacle dominated the center of the room, slowly melting, an unintentional metaphor for the facade of perfection Wesley had so carefully constructed. In the master bathroom of their Coral Gables mansion, Eliana studied her reflection as her mother, Camilla, zipped up the midnight blue gown. The dress flowed elegantly over her 7-month belly, the material catching the light with subtle shimmer. "You look beautiful, Mija," Camilla said, squeezing her daughter's shoulders. "I feel like an imposter," Eliana confessed. "Like I'm dressing up to attend my own execution." Camilla turned Eliana to face her, her experienced eyes taking in the shadows beneath her daughter's carefully applied makeup. "Then why go at all? Because running away solves nothing." Eliana straightened her shoulders. "This affordable housing initiative was my project. I won't be erased from it." The last week had been revealing. Her preliminary research had uncovered troubling discrepancies in the East Side development funding, money allocated then mysteriously rerouted through subsidiary accounts. Nothing conclusive yet, but enough to raise red flags for her journalist's instincts. "I raised you to stand your ground," Camilla said with pride. "Just remember, whatever happens tonight, you always have a home with me." Eliana hugged her mother, drawing strength from the woman who had raised her alone after her father's death, who had worked 2 jobs to put her through journalism school, who had taught her that dignity was non-negotiable. "Wesley said he'd meet me there," Eliana said, checking her phone again. No messages. "He's giving the opening speech." Camilla's expression darkened slightly. "And you're sure you don't want me to come with you?" "I need to do this myself, Mama." Eliana applied a final touch of lipstick. "The car should be here. I'll call you tomorrow." As the driver helped her into the town car, Eliana felt a strange calm settle over her. Whatever happened tonight, she would face it with the dignity her mother had taught her. The gala was in full swing when Eliana arrived. She paused at the entrance, gathering herself as several heads turned in her direction. She had been absent from these events for months, and her appearance, radiant despite her advanced pregnancy, caused a momentary lull in conversation. Marcus appeared at her side, handsome in his tuxedo, offering his arm. "The Queen arrives," he said warmly. "You look stunning, Eli." "Is he here?" she asked quietly. "In the VIP lounge, finalizing his speech, supposedly." Marcus's tone conveyed his skepticism. "He's been checking his watch for the past hour." Eliana nodded, taking a deep breath. "Then let's make an entrance." They moved through the crowd, stopping frequently as attendees greeted Eliana with varying degrees of sincerity. She noted the appraising glances, the whispered comments behind cocktail napkins. Miami's elite were sharks, sensing blood in the water. "Mrs. Tate, we've missed you at the committee meetings," said Helen Patterson, the same woman Eliana had entertained alone weeks earlier. "Though I understand completely why you've been resting." Her eyes dropped meaningfully to Eliana's belly. "The doctor's been cautious," Eliana replied smoothly, "but I wouldn't miss tonight. The East Side project means too much to me." "Yes, quite. Though I heard there have been some adjustments to the funding structure." Helen's question was pointed. Eliana maintained her composure, though Marcus stiffened beside her. "All projects evolve, Helen. The commitment to affordable housing remains paramount." As they moved on, Marcus whispered, "How did she know about the funding changes? Wesley must be testing the waters with key investors." "I need to find him," Eliana said with quiet determination. "Where's the VIP lounge?" Marcus hesitated. "Eli, maybe we should wait until he comes out for the speech. The timing will never be right," she interrupted. "Please, Marcus, I need to see him before he goes on stage." Reluctantly, Marcus directed her to a corridor off the main ballroom. "Second door on the right, but Eli, I know what I'm doing," she assured him, though they both knew it was a lie. The corridor was quieter, the sounds of the gala fading with each step. Eliana's heart pounded as she approached the door marked private. She raised her hand to knock, then hesitated, a lifetime of good manners warring with growing suspicion. In that moment of hesitation, she heard Wesley's laugh, not his public laugh, but the intimate one reserved for moments of genuine amusement. Her hand dropped to the doorknob, turning it silently. The VIP lounge was dimly lit, dominated by plush seating and a small bar. Wesley stood with his back partially to the door, his posture relaxed as he gazed down at Bryn Caldwell. She was stunning in a skin-tight red dress that showcased every sculpted curve, her hand resting on Wesley's chest as she looked up at him adoringly. "You're going to bring down the house tonight," she was saying, straightening his bow tie with practiced intimacy. "The investors will be throwing money at you." "At us," Wesley corrected, his hand sliding to her waist. "The wellness center concept is your vision. We're partners in this." "Partners," Bryn repeated with a sultry smile. "I like the sound of that." Eliana stood frozen in the doorway, the intimate tableau confirming every suspicion she'd harbored. Yet it was the casual us, the easy declaration of partnership that cut deepest, words that had once described her relationship with Wesley. "The speech starts in 10 minutes, she announced, her voice surprisingly steady. They jumped apart, Wesley's expression shifting from shock to irritation, with no stop at guilt in between. "Eliana," he recovered quickly. "I didn't expect you to come. We were just finalizing the presentation." "Clearly," she replied, her hand instinctively moving to her belly as the baby kicked, sensing her distress. Bryn had the decency to look momentarily uncomfortable, but it passed quickly, replaced by something like smug assessment as her eyes traveled over Eliana's pregnant form. "I should check on the audiovisual setup," Bryn said, moving toward the door. As she passed Eliana, she added with practiced concern, "You look tired, Mrs. Tate. It must be so difficult in your condition." When the door closed, Eliana faced her husband directly. "How long?" Wesley loosened his bow tie slightly, irritation clear in his movements. "This is hardly the time or place, Eliana." "How long?" Each word precise, controlled. "It's not what you think." The default lie. "Bryn is a valuable business partner. The wellness concept is revolutionizing our property's value." "Is that what you call it when you touch her like that? A wellness concept?" Eliana's composure was cracking. "Do you think I'm blind? Or just stupid?" Wesley's jaw tightened. "I think you're emotional and not thinking clearly. This is a business relationship that's become friendly." "Friendly," Eliana repeated flatly. "Like the friendly dinner for two at La Maison with champagne service, the late nights at her apartment." His eyes widened slightly. He hadn't expected her to know about La Maison. Then his expression hardened. "What do you want me to say, Eliana? That I'm attracted to someone who takes care of herself, who shares my vision and drive, who doesn't use pregnancy as an excuse to let herself go." The cruelty of his words stole her breath. "Let myself go? I'm carrying your child. A fact you remind me of constantly, as if it's a free pass to become someone I barely recognize." Wesley checked his watch. "I don't have time for this. I have 300 guests and potential investors waiting." He moved to pass her, but Eliana stood her ground. "The East Side project funds, what have you done with them?" This caught him off guard. "What are you talking about?" "The Affordable Housing Initiative. My initiative. I've seen the financial reports, Wesley. The money's being diverted." His eyes narrowed dangerously. "You've been going through company financial records? Those are confidential. They're public filings. I'm a journalist, remember? Or did you forget that too, along with your wedding vows?" The door opened before Wesley could respond. The event coordinator peered in anxiously. "Mr. Tate, we're ready for your speech. Everyone's waiting." Wesley straightened his jacket, his public mask sliding back into place. "We'll discuss this at home, Eliana. I suggest you compose yourself if you're planning to stay." As he brushed past her, he added in a low voice, "And for God's sake, find somewhere to sit down. You look like you're about to pop in that dress. It's making the other guests uncomfortable." Eliana stood alone in the VIP lounge, her husband's words ringing in her ears. She had expected denial, perhaps even remorse, but not this cold dismissal of her very existence. The baby kicked again, a sharp reminder of what was really at stake. She moved to the door, intending to leave quietly, when she heard voices just outside. Wesley and Bryn, apparently unaware of how their voices carried. "She looks ridiculous," Bryn was saying, "like she stuffed a beach ball under that dress." "Just get through tonight," Wesley replied. "Once the baby comes, we'll figure something out. I can't be seen as the guy who left his pregnant wife. Bad for business." "So I'm supposed to be the secret mistress until then?" Bryn's voice held a pout. "Patient partners get rewarded, Bryn." His tone softened. "You're perfect. You know how much I value perfection." Eliana stepped back from the door, her hand covering her mouth to stifle any sound. The casual cruelty, the calculated timeline. It was worse than she'd imagined. Not a momentary lapse, but a complete replacement. She was a temporary inconvenience to be managed until he could discard her without damaging his reputation. She waited until their voices faded before slipping out, moving swiftly down a side corridor to avoid the main ballroom, where Wesley would now be delivering his speech about community investment and family values. Marcus found her in a service hallway, her back against the wall, breathing deeply to maintain composure. "Eli? What happened? Wesley's on stage and he looked like he'd seen a ghost." He stopped, taking in her expression. "What did he do?" "Everything I suspected, and worse." Her voice was eerily calm. "He's been planning to leave after the baby comes. I'm just an inconvenience to be managed until then." Marcus's face darkened with anger. "That son of a—" "I need to get out of here, Marcus." She cut him off. "Not just from the gala, from this marriage. But first, I need to understand what he's doing with the East Side project funds." Marcus hesitated, then made a decision. "The money's being diverted to create luxury wellness centers, Bryn's pet project. They're classifying it as community health infrastructure to keep the tax breaks and city approvals." "That's fraud." Eliana's journalist mind was already connecting the dots. "The city approved those funds specifically for affordable housing." "I've been gathering documentation," Marcus admitted. "I was going to bring it to you next week. There's more, Eli. Former female employees with suspicious NDAs, financial irregularities going back years." Eliana's shock transformed into something colder, more focused. "I need those documents. All of them." "What are you going to do?" She straightened, smoothing her dress over her belly with a new sense of purpose. "First, I'm going to my mother's. Then I'm going to remember who I was before I became Mrs. Wesley Tate." Camilla Monroe's modest apartment in Little Havana became Eliana's sanctuary that night. She sat at her mother's kitchen table, tears finally flowing freely as she recounted the evening's revelations. "I've been such a fool, Mama," she whispered. "I gave up my career, my independence, my identity, all for a man who was just waiting for me to outlive my usefulness." Camilla placed a cup of tea in front of her daughter. "No, Mija. You believed in love and partnership. That's not foolish, it's human." "I let him dim my light," Eliana continued. "I stopped writing, stopped investigating. I became an accessory. Then it's time to shine again," her mother said simply. Eliana looked up, something shifting in her expression. "The press conference." "What press conference?" "The East Side Project press conference, scheduled for tomorrow morning. Wesley's announcing the evolved funding structure to the media." Eliana's mind was racing now. "He expected me to be at home, nursing my wounded pride." Camilla recognized the look in her daughter's eyes, the same determination she'd shown as a young journalist breaking her first major story. "What are you thinking, Eliana?" "I'm thinking it's time I returned to journalism," she said, reaching for her phone. "Marcus, it's Eliana. About those documents. I need them tonight. And I need you to make some calls for me." As she outlined her plan to Marcus, a calm clarity settled over her. The press conference would proceed tomorrow as scheduled, but not in the way Wesley anticipated. By morning, she had calls to make, evidence to organize, and a different kind of announcement to prepare. "Are you sure about this?" Marcus asked before hanging up. "Once you do this, there's no going back." Eliana placed a protective hand over her belly, feeling her child move beneath her palm. "I'm not doing this just for me anymore," she replied. "I'm doing it for every woman he's dismissed, every promise he's broken, and every principle he's compromised. But most of all, I'm doing it for my child. I want her or him to have a mother who stands up for what's right." After ending the call, she opened her laptop and began to write. Not the society page puff pieces Wesley had deemed acceptable for his wife's hobby, but a journalist's meticulous account of systematic fraud, discrimination, and betrayal. By dawn, she would be ready. Camilla watched her daughter transform before her eyes, pride mixing with concern. "He won't go down without a fight, Mija." Eliana looked up from her screen, a new resolve hardening her features. "Neither will I, Mama." He forgot who he married. "I'm not just Wesley Tate's pregnant wife. I'm Eliana Monroe, investigative journalist. And tomorrow, I'm breaking the biggest story of my career." The Miami Convention Center buzzed with activity as journalists and community representatives gathered for the Tate Luxury Properties press conference. The stage featured the company's sleek logo, alongside renderings of the East Side development, affordable housing units that had generated considerable goodwill for the company over the past year. Camera crews adjusted their equipment while reporters checked recording devices, an atmosphere of routine anticipation filling the room. Wesley arrived early, immaculately dressed in a custom charcoal suit that projected authority and success. Despite getting minimal sleep after the confrontation with Eliana, he showed no outward signs of distress. Years of maintaining his perfect facade had trained him well. "Everything ready?" he asked his PR director crisply, surveying the room with calculating eyes. "Yes, sir. We've got representatives from all major outlets, business press and local media. The presentation is loaded and tested." Wesley nodded, mentally rehearsing his talking points. He needed to present the funding reallocation as an evolution of their community commitment, rather than the redirection it actually was. The wellness infrastructure angle had tested well with focus groups. People responded to health initiatives, even if they would never actually benefit from the exclusive facilities. His phone buzzed with a text from Eliana. "Taking your advice and resting today. Good luck with the press conference." The message surprised him. After last night's confrontation, he had expected tears, recriminations, perhaps even threats of divorce. This calm acquiescence was unexpected but welcome. Perhaps she had finally accepted the reality of their situation. He didn't bother responding. As Wesley reviewed his notes in a side room, Bryn slipped in, dressed in a conservative but form-fitting business suit that somehow managed to convey both professionalism and sensuality. "Surprise," she said, closing the door behind her. "I thought you might need moral support." "This isn't in the plan," Wesley frowned. "We agreed you'd stay in the background until after the announcement." "Plans change," Bryn replied smoothly. "I spoke with your PR team. They think having me there reinforces the wellness concept, putting a face to the initiative. I'll sit in the front row, visible, but not intrusive." Wesley considered this, then nodded reluctantly. "Fine. But no comments to the press afterward. We need to control the narrative completely." "Of course," she agreed, adjusting his tie unnecessarily, using the gesture as an excuse to touch him. "After your success today, we should celebrate properly. I've made reservations at that discreet place in South Beach." The door opened abruptly, and Wesley's assistant appeared, her expression unusually tense. "Mr. Tate, there's something—" "Not now," he interrupted. "We're about to start. Sir, it's important. There are some unexpected guests. Handle it." Wesley dismissed her with a wave. "That's what I pay you for." The assistant hesitated, then withdrew, leaving Wesley and Bryn to exchange a confident smile. Neither noticed her immediately making a phone call once outside the door. At precisely 10 a.m., Wesley took the stage to polite applause. Camera flashes punctuated the room as he approached the podium, the very picture of successful leadership. In the front row, Bryn sat with perfect posture, her admiring gaze fixed on him. "Good morning," Wesley began with practiced charm. "Thank you all for coming to this exciting announcement regarding the evolution of our East Side Community Development Initiative." The double doors at the back of the hall opened quietly. Few noticed at first. Attention focused on Wesley, but a ripple of murmurs began to spread as Eliana entered. She walked slowly, deliberately, her pregnant form commanding attention in a tailored maternity suit that projected both authority and femininity. Beside her walked Marcus Delgado, his expression grimly determined, but what truly caught the attention of the assembled press were the three women following them. Women recognized by many in the room as former Tate Luxury Properties executives who had mysteriously left the company over the past few years. Wesley faltered mid-sentence as he spotted his wife. This was not part of the plan. Eliana was supposed to be at home, nursing her wounded pride. His eyes met hers across the room, and what he saw there sent a chill through him. Not hurt or anger, but calm, focused purpose. As I was saying, he recovered smoothly, our commitment to community development remains unwavering, though our approach has evolved to encompass a more holistic... Excuse me, a voice called from the audience. Jordan Wright, former financial director, and one of the women who had entered with Eliana, stood up. I have a question about the funding allocation. Wesley's PR director stepped forward. We'll take questions after the presentation. I think this question is pertinent to your current claims, Jordan persisted. Can you explain why $12 million originally designated for affordable housing construction has been redirected to luxury wellness facilities in the Pinnacle development? A murmur rippled through the crowd. Journalists perked up, sensing a story developing that wasn't in the press packet. That's a mischaracterization, Wesley replied firmly. We've optimized our community investment strategy to include wellness infrastructure that benefits everyone. Everyone who can afford a $250,000 membership fee. Another woman stood, Vanessa Clark, former HR director, who had left after filing a complaint that was quietly settled. Or just everyone who meets your physical appearance standards? Cameras swiveled toward her, then back to Wesley, whose composed expression had hardened almost imperceptibly. These interruptions are inappropriate, he stated. If you have concerns, we can address them after the official presentation. Eliana had reached the front of the room now, Marcus at her side. Rather than taking a seat, she moved toward the stage with quiet confidence. My wife appears to have something to add, Wesley said with a tight smile, attempting to maintain control of the situation. Eliana, would you like to join me? I'm sure everyone would appreciate your perspective on our community initiatives. It was a calculated move, bringing her into his narrative, positioning her as the supportive spouse. What he didn't expect was how readily she accepted. Thank you, Wesley, Eliana said as she climbed the steps to the stage, her voice clear and professional. I would indeed like to address the room. As she took position at the podium beside him, Wesley whispered through his frozen smile, What the hell are you doing? My job, she replied simply, then turned to the assembled press. Good morning. For those who don't know me, I'm Eliana Monroe-Tate, co-founder of the Eastside Initiative and former investigative journalist for the Miami Herald. The emphasis on former journalist sent another ripple through the room. Journalists who had known Eliana from her reporting days sat up straighter, recognizing the tone of a colleague about to break a story. As a company committed to transparency and ethical business practices, Eliana continued, Tate Luxury Properties believes in accountability. That's why I'm here today to address some concerning developments that have recently come to light. Wesley moved to reclaim the microphone, but Marcus had joined them on stage, subtly positioning himself to block Wesley's access to the podium. This is inappropriate, Wesley hissed, but the damage was already done. The room's attention had completely shifted to Eliana. My colleagues are distributing documentation packages, Eliana said, as assistants began circulating through the press rows, handing out folders. These contain evidence of systematic financial misallocation, discrimination against female employees, particularly those who become pregnant, and a pattern of ethical violations that demand immediate attention. The room erupted. Journalists frantically flipped through the documents, camera flashes intensified, and reporters began shouting questions. In the front row, Bryn's perfect composure cracked as she realized what was happening, her eyes darting between the exits and Wesley. These are unfounded allegations, Wesley declared, finally managing to reach the microphone. My wife is clearly emotional due to her pregnancy. Actually, interrupted Jordan Wright, now standing at the edge of the stage with her own microphone, as the former financial director who was terminated after questioning these exact fund reallocations, I can confirm these allegations are meticulously documented. My termination included an NDA, which I'm now breaking at personal legal risk because the public deserves the truth. Vanessa Clark joined her. And as former HR director, I can confirm the pattern of discrimination. I personally handled 7 cases of pregnant employees who were systematically sidelined or terminated. When I raised concerns, I was offered a settlement contingent on my silence. The third woman, Alexandra Reyes, stepped forward. I was Wesley Tate's executive assistant for 3 years. I was directed to alter meeting minutes, backdate documents, and arrange private meetings that were explicitly hidden from the company calendar, including numerous meetings with Ms. Caldwell that were definitely not business-related. All eyes turned to Bryn, who had half risen from her seat, her perfect facade crumbling under the scrutiny. "This is a coordinated attack," Wesley declared, desperation edging into his voice. "These women have personal grudges." "The documentation speaks for itself," Eliana interjected calmly. "Financial records showing the diversion of funds designated for affordable housing, email chains discussing how to conceal these transfers, performance reviews that were altered after women announced pregnancies, and text messages," here she paused, her eyes meeting Wesley's directly, "that demonstrate both personal and professional betrayal." A journalist stood up. "Mrs. Tate, are you alleging that your husband diverted company funds to benefit his mistress's business interests?" The directness of the question hung in the air. For the first time, Eliana's composure wavered slightly. This wasn't just business. It was her life being dissected in public. But she steadied herself, one hand instinctively moving to her belly. "The evidence suggests that Mr. Tate's personal relationship with Ms. Caldwell influenced business decisions that violated both corporate ethics and regulatory requirements. The wellness centers being developed under her direction are being funded with money explicitly designated for affordable housing that families in East Miami desperately need." Another reporter called out, "Ms. Caldwell, do you deny having a personal relationship with Mr. Tate?" Bryn froze like a deer in headlights, her carefully constructed persona shattering under pressure. Her eyes sought Wesley's, looking for guidance, but found him equally cornered. We have a professional relationship focused on wellness development," she stammered unconvincingly. Eliana gestured to an assistant who tapped a key on a laptop. The large screen behind the stage, intended for Wesley's presentation, suddenly displayed text messages between Wesley and Bryn, clinical enough to avoid being salacious, but damning in their implications for both their personal relationship and their coordinated efforts to misappropriate funds. "Wesley, need to move another 2M from East Side to Pinnacle Wellness. Legal says we need better cover." Bryn, "Tell them it's preventative health services for the community. Works every time." Wesley, "Smart and beautiful, perfect combination. Dinner at my place tonight." The room erupted again. Photographers rushed to capture Wesley's expression as it transformed from confidence to shock to barely contained rage. Bryn had given up all pretense, gathering her belongings and trying to slip away unnoticed, only to find her path blocked by photographers eager to capture her reaction. "This is a violation of privacy," Wesley declared, attempting to regain control, "and completely misrepresents legitimate business decisions made with full board approval." "Actually," Marcus stepped forward, "as a board member and minority partner, I can confirm these decisions were never properly presented to the board. Instead, they were buried in supplementary materials and mischaracterized." Another assistant approached the stage, handing Marcus a document. He reviewed it briefly, then handed it to Eliana. "Thank you," she said, scanning the paper. "I've just been informed that the SEC has opened a formal investigation into Tate Luxury Properties based on evidence submitted yesterday. Additionally, the City Zoning Commission has initiated proceedings to review all current permits and tax incentives granted to the company under affordable housing provisions." The systematic dismantling of Wesley's world was happening in real time, broadcast live to the entire Miami business community and beyond. His carefully constructed image of success and perfection was crumbling before everyone's eyes. "As the second largest shareholder in Tate Luxury Properties," Eliana continued, her voice steady despite the chaos, "I am announcing the immediate formation of an ethics committee to conduct a complete internal review. Pending the results of this review and the external investigations, Mr. Tate will be taking a leave of absence from operational duties." Wesley lunged for the microphone. "You can't do this. I'm the majority shareholder." "Not anymore," Marcus interjected, sliding another document in front of him. "The trust agreement you signed when we formed the company includes a moral turpitude clause. Based on this evidence, the trustee has temporarily transferred voting control of your shares to the board, which now includes representatives from our community partners." Wesley stared at the document in disbelief. The clause had been Eliana's idea years ago. Her insistence that any company involved in community development should be held to the highest ethical standards. He had signed it without much thought, never imagining it would be used against him. "This is illegal," he hissed. "I'll fight this." "You're welcome to try." Eliana replied quietly. "But perhaps you should read the evidence first. Your attorney certainly will." Turning back to the stunned audience, she continued with remarkable composure. Tate Luxury Properties, which will be renamed Monroe Community Development, remains committed to its original mission of creating beautiful, sustainable spaces that benefit all members of our community, not just the privileged few. The East Side development will proceed as originally planned, with all allocated funds restored. As the press conference deteriorated into chaos, with journalists shouting questions and photographers jostling for better angles, security personnel began escorting Wesley and Bryn from the stage. Their exit was captured by dozens of cameras, immortalizing the moment when perfection crumbled into disgrace. In the green room afterward, Marcus found Eliana sitting quietly, one hand on her belly, the other clutching a bottle of water. "You did it," he said softly, sitting beside her. "I've never seen anything like that in my life." "I had good help," she acknowledged, looking up at him with tired eyes. "How long have you been gathering evidence?" "Since I first suspected something was wrong with the East Side numbers," Marcus admitted. "But bringing in Vanessa, Jordan and Alexandra was a stroke of genius. How did you find them?" "I never lost touch," Eliana revealed. "That's been my secret project these past few years, staying connected with the women who disappeared from the company under suspicious circumstances. I thought I was being paranoid, but something in my journalist's instinct told me to keep those relationships." "What happens now?" Marcus asked. Eliana took a deep breath, her hand making small circles on her belly as the baby kicked. "Now, we rebuild. The company, my life, everything." "You know he'll fight back," Marcus warned. "Wesley doesn't accept defeat." "I'm counting on it," Eliana replied, her expression hardening slightly, "because this was just phase 1. She opened her laptop, revealing a document titled Recovery Plan, Phases 1-3. The meticulously detailed strategy outlined not just today's exposure, but a comprehensive approach to reforming the company, protecting vulnerable employees, and ensuring the East Side project fulfilled its original promise. "You've been planning this since the night of the gala," Marcus realized, scanning the document with growing amazement. "No," Eliana corrected him. "I've been preparing for this possibility since the day I noticed the first red flag in the company finances 3 years ago. Being a journalist taught me to always have contingency plans. I just never thought I'd need to use them against my own husband." She closed the laptop, her expression a complex mixture of sadness and determination. "The Wesley I married was ambitious but had principles. Somewhere along the way he decided image was more important than substance. I couldn't let him destroy what we built. Not the company, not the projects that will help real people, and not the example I want to set for our child." Outside, they could hear the continuing chaos as the news spread through Miami's business community. By nightfall, it would be national news. The spectacular fall of a real estate mogul brought down by his pregnant wife, the very woman he had been systematically erasing from his perfect life. "Ready to face the next wave?" Marcus asked as Eliana prepared to leave. She squared her shoulders, one hand protectively over her unborn child. "Wesley isn't the only one who knows how to build something lasting," she said with quiet conviction. "The difference is, I'm building something worth saving." 3 years later, the Miami sun cast a golden glow over the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the completed East Side community development. Children played in the central garden while families explored their new affordable homes. Modern, sustainable buildings that bore little resemblance to typical low-income housing. On a small stage, Eliana Monroe stood with her 3-year-old daughter Charlotte, scissors poised over a red ribbon. "Today marks not just the completion of buildings," Eliana addressed the gathered crowd, her confidence evident in every word, "but the fulfillment of a promise to create homes where families can thrive with dignity." Charlotte, with her mother's dark curls and her father's piercing blue eyes, bounced impatiently beside her. "Cut it, Mama," she stage whispered, drawing laughter from the audience. "My daughter, the executive," Eliana smiled, helping Charlotte's small hands guide the scissors through the ribbon. Applause erupted as confetti showered down, marking the official opening of a development many had thought would never be completed. From the back of the crowd, a figure watched silently. Thinner now, with touches of grey at his temples, Wesley Tate bore little resemblance to the imperious tycoon who had once dominated Miami's skyline. He stood unnoticed, observing the woman who had once been his wife and the daughter he barely knew. The 3 years following what the business press had dubbed the Tate takedown had transformed everyone involved. For Wesley, the fall had been steep and merciless. The SEC investigation resulted in substantial fines, but, thanks to Eliana's unexpected intervention, no criminal charges. The divorce proceedings revealed further evidence of his misdeeds, leading to a settlement that left him wealthy, but stripped of the company he had built. Social exile proved more painful than financial penalties. Miami's elite, once eager for his approval, now avoided him at all costs. Former associates pretended not to see him in restaurants. Invitations stopped. Wesley Tate, who had built his life around being admired and envied, found himself fundamentally alone. Bryn Caldwell vanished almost immediately after the press conference, reappearing weeks later with a tearful Instagram video portraying herself as another victim of Wesley's manipulation. Her wellness brand pivoted to authentic health after trauma, successfully recasting her involvement as a cautionary tale rather than calculated ambition. For Eliana, the transformation was entirely different. Charlotte Camilla Monroe was born 6 weeks after the press conference, with Marcus and Camilla in the delivery room, instead of Wesley, who had only learned of his daughter's birth through his attorney. The moment she held Charlotte, Eliana understood that every difficult choice had been worthwhile. Under her leadership, the renamed Monroe Community Development flourished with a revolutionary business model, combining luxury and affordable housing in integrated communities. The company became an industry leader in ethical development, with Eliana frequently featured in business publications as the face of conscientious capitalism. Most surprisingly, Eliana returned to journalism part-time, writing a column on corporate ethics that became required reading in business schools nationwide. The woman who had dimmed her light to accommodate her husband's ego now shone brighter than ever, balancing motherhood, business leadership, and her rekindled passion for truth-telling. After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, as staff cleared away chairs and Charlotte played with other children, Marcus approached Eliana with a concerned expression. "He's here," he said quietly. Eliana nodded. "I saw him." "It's fine, Marcus. We knew this might happen. I can have security." "No," she interrupted gently. "The restraining order expired months ago, and he's been complying with all the visitation agreements." She watched her daughter laugh as she chased butterflies in the garden. "It's her day too. He has a right to see what she helped create." Marcus squeezed her hand briefly, a gesture that had grown increasingly common over the past year, as their relationship evolved from friendship to something deeper, though both were proceeding with careful deliberation. "I'll keep an eye on Charlotte," he offered, understanding Eliana's unspoken wish for privacy. As Marcus joined the children in the garden, Eliana made her way through the dispersing crowd toward Wesley. Up close, the changes in him were more apparent, not just physical thinning, but a fundamental alteration in how he carried himself. The aggressive confidence had been replaced by something more contained, almost humble. "Congratulations," he said simply when she reached him. "It's everything you envisioned." "Thank you for coming," she replied, surprised to find she actually meant it. "I wouldn't miss seeing what my community service hours helped build." The comment held no bitterness, only a hint of irony. As part of his settlement agreement, Wesley had been required to complete 2,000 hours of community service with housing insecure families, an experience that had proven unexpectedly transformative. "How are you, Wesley?" Eliana asked, genuinely curious about the man who had once been the center of her world. "Changed," he answered after a thoughtful pause. "Working at the women's shelter. It forces perspective." He gazed at the development around them. "This matters more than the glass towers I built, I see that now." Eliana studied him, searching for the calculated charm that had once been his trademark. Instead, she found an authenticity that had never been there during their marriage. "Charlotte looks happy," he observed, watching their daughter across the garden. "You're doing an incredible job with her." "She asks about you," Eliana admitted. "She loves the books you send." Wesley nodded, a flash of pain crossing his features. The court-supervised visitation twice monthly was the extent of his relationship with his daughter, a consequence of his actions that no amount of redemption could fully repair. "There's something I never asked you," he said, his voice lower. "After everything settled, why did you stop the criminal prosecution? Your evidence was enough for prison time. The SEC was ready to make an example of me." The question hung between them, addressing the mystery that had puzzled Miami's business community for years. At the height of the investigations, Eliana had unexpectedly withdrawn certain key evidence and issued a statement advocating for regulatory penalties rather than criminal charges. "Charlotte deserved a father, even a deeply flawed one," she replied, "and prison wouldn't have taught you what working with actual people in need could." Wesley absorbed this, recognition dawning in his eyes. "It was part of your plan all along, wasn't it? Even the community service requirement in the settlement." "Phase 3, Eliana acknowledged with a small smile. "Rehabilitation over punishment. I learned that from my mother." The revelation shifted something fundamental between them, the final piece of a complex puzzle falling into place. What had appeared to the world as spontaneous outrage had actually been a meticulously crafted intervention, designed not just to stop Wesley's unethical behavior, but to create an opportunity for genuine transformation. "You could have destroyed me completely," he realized. "That was never the goal," she replied. "The goal was to save what mattered, the housing project, the company's mission, and maybe some small part of the man I once loved enough to marry." Charlotte's delighted squeal drew their attention as Marcus swung her high into the air, her little legs kicking with joy. The sight of their daughter with the man who had become a surrogate father figure created a bittersweet tableau of what might have been versus what was. "He's good for both of you," Wesley acknowledged, watching Marcus with Charlotte. "Better than I was." "Different," Eliana corrected gently. "We're all different now." As the afternoon light began to soften, Eliana checked her watch. "Charlotte's birthday party starts in an hour. You're welcome to come if you want, just family and close friends." The invitation, unexpected and undeserved, caught Wesley off guard. "Are you sure?" "No," she admitted with a small laugh, "but Charlotte would like it, and I think we've all earned the right to try something new." As they walked toward the garden to collect Charlotte, Wesley asked the question that had haunted him for 3 years. "Was any of it real, Eliana? Us?" She paused, considering the weight of truth versus comfort. "Yes," she finally said, "until it wasn't. I loved the man I thought you were. Maybe now you're becoming him." Charlotte spotted her father and ran toward him with the uncomplicated joy only children can manage, arms outstretched. As Wesley knelt to receive her embrace, their matching blue eyes meeting, Eliana felt the complex emotions of her bittersweet victory, a rebuilt company, a restored sense of purpose, a daughter thriving in love and security, and the high cost of the family that might have been. In the soft Miami twilight, as Charlotte chatted excitedly about her party while holding both her mother's and father's hands, Eliana realized that betrayal had indeed transformed them all. What had begun as deception had ultimately forced each of them toward their truest selves. Wesley toward humility and service, Bryn toward authentic connection with her audience, and Eliana toward reclaiming the power she had too willingly surrendered. "Ready to go, sweet pea?" she asked Charlotte, who nodded enthusiastically. "Mommy built houses, Daddy," Charlotte informed Wesley proudly. "And I cutted the ribbon." "I saw," he replied, genuine pride suffusing his voice. "Your mommy builds amazing things." Their eyes met over their daughter's head, former adversaries now navigating a complex peace. The company Eliana had saved, the daughter they shared, the separate lives they now led, all were monuments to the truth that sometimes what appears to be an ending is merely a painful but necessary transformation. As they walked together toward the future, neither had imagined 3 years earlier, the setting sun cast long shadows behind them, remnants of a past gradually receding with each forward step. If this story touched your heart, and you want to keep following inspiring and moving stories, be sure to check out our upcoming videos, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications to stay updated on new content that can brighten your journey and provide valuable insights. Join us and keep exploring stories that truly matter. I'm sure the next video that pops up on your screen will touch you as well, so click on it now, and we'll see you there.